Hi, thank you so much for joining me for the Acronym Explanation Series. My name is Jen, and I'm on a healing journey breaking free from the destructive patterns of disordered eating and embracing a nourishing lifestyle. I am using an original acronym of the word Nourisher to help guide my healing process. And in this series, I'm going to take a deep dive into each of the letters of the Nourisher acronym in order to explain it to you further. So thank you for joining me, and let's dig in. Thank you so much for joining me, and we are going to unpack the first R in the Nourisher acronym, and this R stands for Rewire My Brain. It can seem devastating to learn that we have an incredibly accelerated amount of brain growth and of brain development when we are very young, and this development that happens when we're young can feel like it kind of traps us for the rest of our life. But the good news of the story is that that is not the final chapter. That is not how this story ends. So this rapid brain development that we experience when we're little can actually really impact the rest of our lives. So for example, our attachment center of our brain, the area of our brain that helps us know what to expect in the relationship, how to show up in relationship, how we interact in relationship, is more or less set by the time we're age 3. And again, more so by the time we're age 7. So this means that by the time we're 3, clinicians can actually start to predict how we are going to react in relationships, even into our adult lives. So this can be kind of a prediction that people can make unless we recognize it and we take control of it and we change and learn, because our brains, even though they did get set in a pattern, we were blessed with neuroplasticity, and our brains can continue to grow and change and develop. They can. And this is really, really good news for us because we can start to relate differently. So in our brains, we have what's called our limbic system. The limbic system is the area of the brain that is involved with behavioral and emotional control or responses. That particular system of our brain, our limbic system, can get basically stuck in patterns that we learned when we were in our more formative years of life, and they can start even giving false messages to the rest of our body. So for example, let's say that I was bit by a dog when I was younger. That could become a very formative memory for me, and my brain could really lock onto that because my brain's job is to keep me safe, right? So your brain has this area in the back of your brain called your amygdala, and it is always scanning for threat. It's like that's threat radar, right? And when it sees, it's kind of primitive in that it can only judge if something is good or bad or scary. Those are kind of like the three. It can put a tag on everything that it experiences, and it has to be one of those three. So if it's good, no problem. But if it labels it as being bad, or if it labels it as being scary, then it sends adrenaline through our body, and all of a sudden we are in this fight, flight, or freeze response, and we don't have our full capacity of our prefrontal cortex, which is more the thinking, rational part of our brain. It kind of goes offline, and we end up being driven by this fight, flight, or freeze response. So that's not very helpful for me. When I was young, if I got bit by a dog, then when I see a dog again, immediately, hey, that had the label, that dog, this cute little dog, no, that has a label of bad or scary on it. And so my body starts pumping adrenaline through, and I go into this response. But when I am encountered with this fluffy little puppy, or with a dog that has no desire to harm me, and I could actually enjoy some nurturing interaction with, my brain is giving me this fight, flight, or freeze response, or this warning bell, or this alarm, in a way that's actually not helpful or beneficial for me, because it's actually robbing me of the potential joy that I could be experiencing in enjoying this puppy, because I'm so afraid, when it actually isn't a true risk to me any longer. But it was hardwired when we were smaller, and we need to learn the fact that we actually can rewire our brain so that it doesn't throw us into that adrenaline response. It doesn't throw us into that what can be that overwhelming fear or anxiety or whatever your response is to that puppy. So there are so many things that we can rewire for. The other thing that felt really devastating for me is even areas like the prefrontal cortex that help us, have what's called our executive function, or, our ability to organize or do strategy, all those kind of more higher level thinking. That also was created almost as if you imagine like something that was created by pinging off of something else and kind of making a mirror image of whatever it's pinging against. That's kind of a rudimentary, in my understanding, a rudimentary way of understanding how our prefrontal cortex and many areas of our brain were developed, where it was kind of pinging off of our primary caregivers and was almost created kind of like a model. So therefore, if they had some areas of weakness or deficiency, perhaps some depression, that kind of thing, we can actually end up inheriting that type of brain chemistry, that type of brain makeup, and that can feel to be very difficult to shake or to get rid of. So what we can do, though, is even though our brains may have been originally developed to have weaknesses in these areas, we can develop capacity. And what is important to remember is that we learn these things in experience, in relationship, and we need to relearn them with real experiences in real relationships. And that is absolutely key. The more experiences you have with kind little puppies, the more you'll be able to soothe and tell the kind of the guard shack of your amygdala to stop sounding the alarm bells. And you can have new experiences that override that old experience. And we can there's so many different mindful experiences and exercises that we can do on a daily basis that can help to grow neurological capacity and start to rewire our brains. So there is a great Dr. Dan Siegel, who is a clinical professor of clinical psychiatry at UCLA. He uses this great example where he's almost talking about our brains being paths, where he talks about neurons that fire together, wire together, meaning that the more of a similar experience we have and the more of a similar reaction we have to that experience, the more hardwired in our brains that connection is. Meaning, if we always responded that way, it means the next time we even have a higher chance of responding that way. I used to work in human resources, and we expected this to be true even in our hiring. We always said that the greatest predictor of future behavior and success is previous success, right? Or previous behavior. So we would ask questions about people in an interviewing scenario about their previous behavior. Tell me about a time when. Have you ever been in an interview like that? So that we could get a picture of what they did in the past, because that was the greatest predictor of what they're going to do in the future. Okay? So we can actually start to have experiences now that help to therefore inform the experience that we're going to have in the future. So let me go back to this idea of Dr. Dan Siegel. So Dr. Dan Siegel was talking about the fact that, let's say that their typical response to something being unfair is to blow up and be explosively angry. So there's a trigger of something being unfair, and he said, picture them like going up a chairlift at a ski resort, and they're just getting more and more amped up. And then when they get to the top, they always go down the same hill, which, let's say that's representative of screaming and kicking and throwing things, okay? So, but the more you go down that hill, the more the snow gets packed down, and that hill gets faster and faster and faster the more you go down it. Meanwhile, other slopes that aren't being used on the hill, snow is falling and they're getting more snow covered. But the one that we typically go down is the one that's going to be easier to get on the next time, and it's going to be faster and faster. And that's the idea in our head, is that these responses become more and more almost automatic and entrenched and ingrained in us. So if there's a way that, let's say there's the trigger of unfairness that really irks someone, and they go up this up the chairlift and they get to the top, if there's any way at all, any way that they can choose a different way down, they will have a different experience. Maybe it's using their words, naming it to tame it, maybe opening up to others, maybe going for a walk and getting out some of the physicality of that anger, maybe journaling, maybe screaming into a pillow, maybe going for a run, maybe whatever it is. If they can choose a different path, then the next time they go up, that other path will be a little bit more intuitive. And if they keep doing the hard work of choosing the new path, eventually that new path will end up being the new neurological connection, the neurological pathway. It will be the one that is more automatic, that they'll slide down really quickly, and the old path will get snowed over. So there is hope. There is hope that these things that feel automatic, that the cycle that we're on that feels automatic, that we can snow over that path and that we can get to the other side of healthy, whole, more emotionally in tune, and being better protectors of ourselves and others. There's great hope in this area, and I'm so excited about learning together how to rewire our brains so that we can actually experience true joy, true peace, true what God has designed our brains to be able to enjoy together in relationship with others. I'm very hopeful for this area, and I hope that you will join me in these really exciting learning experiences as well. Thanks, and have a great day.